So I'm filming this on the 8th of March and the weather is still absolutely minging. Our poor lawn is in a very sorry state and there'll be a video coming out all about sorting this mess out. And you may have seen from my Gosforth Handyman channel, but I have now built our 2.6 metre long bench for in the greenhouse, which is awesome, but the slight problem is that there is nothing on it. I desperately need to get some seedlings on their way so that they're ready to plant out once the weather improves outside, and I'm just looking at this kind of expanse of nothingness at the minute. So today is all really going to be about my absolute amateur attempt to work out what to plant, how to get the seedlings up and running, especially since we're still only in kind of late winter. As you can see, it's barely 8 degrees at the minute, so I think it's going to be far too cold to plant any seeds into containers in here. We'll need to get them going in the house. But do you ever feel like you've just got so many jobs to do that you end up just kind of doing nothing? On the plus side, our little cherry tree that we planted, only planted this out a couple of weeks ago. It's flowering. It's such a nice tree that it's been stuck in a pot for about, I'm going to say 20 years. So it's been a bit growth stunted. I think this will probably start growing quite quickly now that it's free to do its own thing. And the other cherry tree I planted out is all budded up, ready to burst into life. Very exciting. Look at these snowdrops, they're huge. That's a big snowdrop plant. I thought that was bluebells. And talking of bulbs and all that sort of thing, our bed underneath the apple tree, which was really problematic, is looking much, much healthier now. We've got a few daffodils coming through, the sarcococcas look really happy, the ferns look really happy, we've got the roses started growing at the front there, even the little acer is getting buds on it. Jury's still out as to whether these fuchsia twigs will ever come back to life, but we'll see about that later down the line. But look at this, we have got bulbs coming up all over the shop, which is fantastic news. So we've got probably bluebells and crocuses and alliums, all sorts of things are going to be popping up at the back there, and they're all just poking their heads through the soil, which is really exciting. Now, one job that we do desperately need to get done before we start loading the greenhouse up with stuff is that we are going to stain this bench, because it's a little bit new looking at the minute and it's kind of now or never. So I think if we're going to stain it, now is the time. But in the meantime, I can get a few seedlings and things like that germinated in the house, because I think we're not far off being able to grow stuff in this greenhouse. One thing that's worth mentioning as well, these little thermometers are awesome. This is just the Govee ones. I'll include a link down in the description if you're looking for something like this. But the nice thing about these is not only does it tell you the maximum and minimum, but it logs it all over time as well, and that gives me a really good idea as to how cold this greenhouse is getting at night time. So anyway, here's an export of all the temperature data from the little Govee thermometer. I'm showing this in degrees C, obviously, so here's 0 over on the left, and we are starting measuring from the 1st of February. I know it's really hard to see on this scale, but it's as good as I can kind of get it. So we've got February kind of here, and 1st of March is kind of here-ish. For some reason we do have a gap in proceedings where we jump from the 6th of February to the 17th. I can't remember what happened there. It doesn't really matter. The key thing that we're looking at is what has the temperature been like over the last couple of weeks. I did think it was slightly odd that we were getting all the way down to obviously below freezing in the greenhouse, and then a sudden jump up to around 6 degrees or thereabouts. So I also did an export from our central heating system, which measures the outdoor air temperature. It only measures it on an average per day, so you're not seeing it go all the way down to the negatives, but you can see that more or less correlates to how the temperature in the greenhouse has been behaving over time. So I think ballpark we are pretty much correct. So from that we can kind of see that we've only had a couple of moments where it's very briefly dropped below 0. That looks like it was on the 4th of March when I think we did get a bit of a frosty cold spell, but since then we've never seen the temperature in the greenhouse drop below 5 degrees, and if anything, looking at the weather forecast, it looks like it's going to really warm up over the next week or so, so I reckon we're in a pretty good position to start planting some things. So how on earth do you know what to plant when? And I've got a whole load of things to choose from here. I've got shallots, I've got onion sets, I've got Maris Piper potatoes that are happily chitting away, and foremost potatoes where the chits are getting really quite big on these. Check that out. I mean, should that be going in the soil? It probably should. I've got a whole load of seeds in here that I've saved up over the years. You know, I've got, what's this, radishes and everything in here, really. Coriander, lettuce, there's various annuals and things in here as well. A lot of these are quite old seeds, so I don't know how good they're going to be. And I recently had a present of this seed box of my wonderful family, and in here, check this out, there's all sorts in here. I'll let you have a look at that, but yeah, so I've got no shortage of seeds. I've just got no idea what I should be planting, where and when. So starting with these shallots, I mean, it says you can plant them in March. What does it say in the instructions? Shallots should be planted in an open, sunny, sheltered site with good drainage, blah, blah, blah. The sooner these are put in some soil and not left to grow in plastic, probably the better. Same goes for these onion sets here. These are rumba onion sets. By the way, the shallots are red sun shallots. So these onion sets here, again, they're starting to grow in the packet. It says you can plant them in March. Remove onion sets from all packaging and spread out in a cool, well-lit place. Onion sets should be planted in an open, sunny, sheltered site with good drainage, blah, blah, blah. The Maris Piper seed potatoes, they probably need a little bit longer. I don't know, what do you think? They're about 1 centimetre long on the chitting front, but as I say, the foremost earlies, I think, are these earlies? These are well ready to go in the ground, I think. So I think that's probably going to be one of our first jobs. Then let's have a look at our seed box, because one of the things that I really want to get planted in the greenhouse, obviously, are going to be tomato plants. So by the looks of it, we've got a whole load of different tomato plant seeds in here, and presumably I'm going to have to get these going and planted. Let's see if we can find them. How do you find... Oh, look, this comes with growing instructions. An e-book. Scan here, grow here. Zucchini. So this is really cool. It explains everything with symbols, basically, which is perfect for me. So we've got symbols for planting outdoors, indoor sowing, distance between plants, when you should move the seedlings outside, and then the stuff about whether or not you can seed it indoors or outdoors, sun exposure, harvesting. Okay, let's look up the tomatoes. Just purely as a starting point, really. Here's some tomatoes. So we've got Oxheart, sow indoors March to April, sow outdoors May to June, need full sun, blah blah blah. Same goes for San Marzano. We've got Ace 55VF, same for that. And Marmande, tomato Marmande. Anyway, all of them need sown indoors. I think this is going to be pretty much across the board. I know there's a few things you can sow straight into the bed, like radishes, but I haven't built all this to eat radishes. In the meantime, I've got all these seeds that I've been saving up, and I think I've only got 1 packet of tomato seeds in here, but what I do have is loads of like flour mixes and stuff like that. I'd love to get some of this sort of stuff planted. Sow indoors March, April, May. Germinate at 20 to 25 degrees. That's not doable in a greenhouse. What about this? Not entirely sure what that is. It still needs 15 to 20 degrees to germinate. Is there anything that's just going to germinate without having to put that much effort in? Nope. Nope. Clearly, all of these need 15 to 20 degrees to germinate, so I'm not going to be able to germinate anything in the greenhouse, am I? Don't know. What about a lettuce? Can we plant lettuce seeds somewhere? Sow thinly, March to July, in finely raked, warm, moist soil. Doesn't really tell you the temperature that it needs to be. I have no idea. Do all seeds need to be kind of germinated indoors, or certainly at this time of year. So I did pick this book up from Barter Books, fantastic second-hand bookshop in Northumberland if you ever get the chance to visit. If you are aware of the poster that says "Keep calm and carry on," that's where it was kind of invented, or that's where it was discovered. Anyway, I picked this book up from there, and this book has this amazing seasonal planner kind of growing guide in it. So we've got like broad beans can be sown early spring. What have we got? Cabbages, carrots. So it kind of tells you what you can sow when and when you can expect to harvest it and things like that. But yeah, I haven't really got a clue what I'm doing. I think I'm going to go for the Andy Mack kind of usual approach of making it up as I go along and hoping for the best. And that meant another trip to the garden centre. We don't need much of an excuse to go there. Our current favourite is Azure Garden Centre in Cramlington. It's charity run, so I'm more than happy to give them a shout out. Awesome garden centre with an amazing cafe. Even if the weather's bad, we often just head there for lunch. So we picked up a few bits and pieces, some tray things for the greenhouse, a couple more propagators, and Mrs. Mack got some new wellies. So it can be a bit daunting when you're looking at a big pile of seeds like this. So the first thing we've done is just whittle out things that we have no particular interest in growing. As I say, tomatoes are top priority, but we also want to be growing flowers and herbs and lettuces and all that sort of thing. So from there, we've kind of narrowed it down to this pile here that we've got. Now, these are all kind of duplicates and things, so they can get discarded. Over on this side, we've mainly got flowers and things like that, so they are less urgent, I guess, but we still want to get them in the ground or at least started off. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different types of tomato. So realistically, that's probably overkill. I'm just going to pick 4 of them completely at random. We'll include some cherry tomatoes just for the fun of it, and we'll just pick 2 other random packets from here. Brilliant, cherry tomatoes. We'll do those. So we'll discard those. We might try growing those later in the year, or maybe save them for next year. Carrots wise, we've got 3 different types here, so I think that's probably excessive for getting started. So we'll do these early Nantes to Frubund, and we've got this Chantenay. The Amsterdam ones, we'll save those for another time. We've got broccoli and spring onions and spinach. We've also got cabbage and lettuce and cos lettuce, which we quite like all of those. I would quite like to get some dill and sage planted if possible. And radishes, I mean, these seeds are ancient. They went out of date in 2011. But, you know, they're a quick win. If they don't grow, I don't particularly care. But if they do grow, it's a nice, easy one. So we'll include those as well. And then in terms of flowers, we've got all sorts here. We've got zinnia, whatever these things are, sunflowers, morning glory, whatever, heavenly blue, marigolds, and poppies as well. So plenty to get planted there. A lot of this can actually be planted directly in the soil, doesn't necessarily need to go in the greenhouse. So we'll kind of prioritize the things that we're going to have to germinate indoors first, and then we'll worry about the outdoor planting stuff a little bit later on. So I've then gone through those instruction things, and all I've done for each packet of seeds is I've written on the back whether or not it needs to be sown indoors or outdoors or whatever. So for example here, what is this? This is red cherry tomatoes, and it needs to be sown indoors 22 degrees. That's optimistic. It's not going to get that, but maybe 20-ish degrees. And then planted out in May. They need to be planted out about 40 by 50 centimetres apart or thereabouts, and then harvested August to October. So I've worked that out for all of them. So basically these are all the ones that we're going to have to propagate indoors to get the seeds going. There's not actually that many. And then we've got this big pile of stuff. A lot of this can be started off outdoors, but I'm probably just going to start them in the greenhouse because I can. So we've got all sorts. We've got sunflowers, various sunflowers, carrots, spring onions, lettuce, spinach, broccoli, more lettuce, the radish, dill, zinnia, and then what have we got here? We've got poppies, sage, cabbage, and carrots. So again, these can be planted outdoors, 1 centimetre deep in 5 by 30 centimetre rows, and then this can be harvested July to August, apparently. So that's kind of my approach. What I might as well do at this point is write out the little marker sticks, I guess. I'll be honest, it irks me somewhat that I'm using my workshop as a potting shed, but it's far too cold to be doing this outside, and I don't think it's ever going to stop raining, in all honesty. So I picked up these little propagator things from the garden centre. I've already got some propagators, but I'm going to need quite a few, I think. But I figured the more the merrier. And then I guess it's just a case of shoving the seeds in the little duckets. So let's start with tomatoes. And realistically, how many tomato plants do we need? I wouldn't have said we need any more than about 10. So maybe if I do a row for each type, and then that gives us 12 plants. Or maybe I should do an entire tray just to, then I can pick like the best ones or whatever. How many seeds do I do per thingy? Literally no idea. I'll tell you what, actually, let's do a whole tray of tomato plants because I want to play it safe on this one. Because if we don't get tomatoes, I'm going to be a little bit gutted. So the first seed is going to be red cherry, small fruited. Tiny tomato seeds. I'm going to do 2 per little pot because what if they don't germinate? No idea how deep these are supposed to go. Oh, I've accidentally put 3 in that one. Do you cover them up? I guess you cover them up. Cherry red cherry. hindsight, that may not have been the best watering technique, because I think there's a reasonable chance that I've washed seeds from one row into the next row, because it all seemed to kind of go everywhere when I poured it in. Anyway, we're off the ground. Something is planted. I wonder if I should water from underneath. Would that be better? I'm going to do that. You know what it is? I'm just going to put a bunch of water in here. And it can kind of suck it up. Do you think that'll work? I have no idea. I'm going to try this approach. Now, on the basis that these seeds are ancient, and there's a really high chance that they're not going to germinate at all, I'm going to do probably half of the entire propagator. I think I'm going to try a squirty bottle to water these, but probably best not doing that right next to the seeds. Fingers crossed. And then finally marigolds. You know what it is? How many marigolds do I need? I might have to find another plant to do in this half. And I'll do this half marigolds, I think. Make some little holes. I have no idea how deep I'm supposed to be sowing these, so I'm just kind of... I'm probably putting them about half a centimetre deep. Oh, they're pretty seeds, look at them. Wow. I gather you just chuck these in, like all the other ones. I will put a little bit of water in the bottom of the tray as well, because obviously the bottom of this compost is absolutely bone dry. I need to find something else to go in this end. These will do. Melope vulcans. Again, these are ancient. They might not grow at all. There's little ridges in the bottom of this, so it's not going to be sitting in water. I'm just putting a tiny bit extra in, just so it gets kind of sucked up into the compost, but it's not going to be sitting in water. I will double check that as well over time, but I think that'll be happy. And then I guess it's just a case of putting them somewhere kind of warm. By my understanding, they don't need light to germinate, so that'll do it. It's 20.7 degrees in here, so we should be all right. So I guess that's it. I'll check them every couple of days, make sure the compost isn't drying out, give them a little spray if needs be. Other than that, I think a couple of weeks down the line, hopefully we'll have some plants growing. And I'm not going to plant out the greenhouse seeds until we've painted the bench, and Mrs. Mac has kindly agreed to do that either today or tomorrow. So I'm going to get this pulled out and ready for it. I've dug some paint out. Paint's about as old as the seeds that I've planted, so dread to think what state it's in. As I say, it's kind of now or never with this job. If we don't paint it now, it's just not going to get done, and I do think it's going to look much better painted because it's so new looking. It just looks a bit daft. So hopefully next time we'll have a fully stained bench. We can start getting the greenhouse loaded up, which I'm very excited about, and we can get some of the seeds planted that we're going to get going in here. All of that next time. As per usual, folks, if you want to follow our very amateur gardening endeavours, we've never done anything like this before, so if you want to follow along from home, do hit the subscribe button. In the meantime, look after each other, be nice to one another, and we shall see you next time. Tatty bye.